I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, and this is a breaking news alert. Donald Trump's lawyers just filed a new letter brief before Judge Dearie, the special master in the proceedings arising out of the search warrant executed at Mar-a-Lago. And this letter basically seeks delay, and it also attaches to it another letter brief that I referenced in a previous video yesterday, which was not on the public docket. It was actually a private letter, it turns out, that was sent to the chambers and not posted like a normal lawyer would just post the document on the electronic court's filing system. But in that document, you can actually see the objections to the case management order that Donald Trump and his lawyers made, basically objecting to everything that Judge Dearie wants. Essentially, what's happening here is Donald Trump was like, I want a special master. I want Judge Dearie to be the special master. And Judge Eileen Cannon, the corrupt Trump judge, was like, I'll appoint that special master for you. What else would you like me to do, sir? So you get Judge Dearie, and Judge Dearie follows the law. Judge Dearie is a law and order judge who says, okay, here's my case management plan. My role as a special master is to review these records. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that you're going to verify under penalty of perjury that these records are what the FBI says they are, because you're out there whining and complaining on your rallies that they planted information. So we want you to submit declarations under penalty of perjury, and we want you to go through a very organized and expeditious process, to which Donald Trump says, no, we're objecting. You're violating Judge Eileen Cannon's order appointing you. And now Donald Trump and his lawyers are basically going after the special master, Judge Dearie, criticizing him, complaining about him, writing these relatively nasty letter briefs to him, criticizing the way he's conducting himself. This is not going to end well for Donald Trump, folks, and I am here for it. And so let's just go through the first letter brief that was sent. And in the first letter brief that was sent, this is dated September 28th, 2022. It was just docketed at document number 123. It's a letter to Judge Dearie. It's a 3-page letter, and the letter basically blames the government for the lack of electronic vendors who want to work with Trump. We know the reason that the electronic vendors don't want to work with Trump is because he doesn't pay his bills. But according to this letter, it says that it's just too much work for the vendors to handle. Too much work in too short of time. That's why the vendors don't want to be engaged. We know that's not the case because we read the Department of Justice's letter where they said, look, the vendors simply want to engage with us. They don't want to do a contract with Donald Trump because they don't think that Donald Trump is ultimately going to pay them, is the implication of what the Department of Justice said. Then the letter goes on to basically say, the deadlines that are being set by the government are not realistic, and the deadlines being set by the court are not realistic. This was like a mini bombshell hidden in the letter, to the extent you could believe it. Although with Donald Trump and his lawyers, it's hard to believe anything they say. They claim that although there was 11,000 documents, Donald Trump says it may actually be 200,000 pages of records, and that this is somehow going to be very difficult for the electronic discovery vendor to go through. Now, first off, if Donald Trump was hoarding 200,000 pages of documents at Mar-a-Lago, I think this raises the stakes even more seriously. Not that 11,000 is a small amount of documents, but also, as someone who's practiced in cases, and I have, with electronic discovery vendors who like literally download like massive terabytes of downloads of data, talking about here 200,000 pages of documents. I know electronic discovery vendors, that's still not a lot of documents for them to go through and for them to load in their electronic system. Like, they have computers for a reason, and computers can handle 200,000 documents very, very, very quickly. I'm not sure if Donald Trump thinks that he's dealing with a judge who doesn't know the way these things work. And this is, by the way, one of the reasons that the special master, Judge Dearie, brought in a magistrate judge, Judge Orenstein, is that Judge Orenstein, when he was a magistrate judge, dealt with these electronic discovery issues a ton. This is the person who, the magistrate who's going to be billing Donald Trump $500 an hour, the retired magistrate, to assist Judge Dearie in his work. But Judge Orenstein will know that this is BS, and that 200,000 documents, even if that's the case, can be done relatively quickly. But Again, you have to take anything that Donald Trump says with a grain of salt. But here, Donald Trump basically says, delay, delay, delay. This is going to take forever to do. We shouldn't even be going through this process right now. And then they basically say, the government counsel's commentary regarding their compliance and our responsibilities misses the mark. They criticize the government's process of utilizing the filter team to review the privileged documents. I have no clue at this point what Donald Trump is even complaining about, because at this point he's going to get to review the records. He'll be able to mark what he wants to mark as attorney-client privilege, and the special master is overseeing the process. Like, the DOJ is just following exactly what the special master is doing. And then as you go down, it goes, finally, as the government chose to include in its public filings reference to our objections to the amended case management, which we sent to Chambers directly. A copy of our letter is enclosed herewith for consistent treatment to preserve those objections of your honor. So here, this is what happened. They're admitting that they sent a letter to Chambers. They didn't file the document. Like, who just sends a letter to Chambers? And the Department of Justice talked about it publicly, because why are you sending private letters to Chambers? And then that is actually an attachment here. One of the other things that I like about this letter, too, is that Donald Trump's lawyers are complaining about being lectured by the Department of Justice, like that Donald Trump's lawyers don't know what they're doing, while showing in this letter that they have absolutely no clue at all what it is that they are doing. And then they attach the letter. Let me pull up the letter right now. This is a letter that was from the day before that, on September 25th, 2022. And this is Donald Trump's objections to the special master's process. And so in the very first section, it says verifications. And this is where Donald Trump is objecting that he doesn't want to have to respond with verified under oath statements at all. He says that he can't do the verification process. He also talks about in this letter that something about preserving the rights and privileges that he has as well under the United States Constitution, which to me is obviously a reference that he believes that by being forced to submit an affidavit under penalty of perjury, that Judge Dearie is forcing him to waive his Fifth Amendment rights, but he's not. You chose to go through this process, Donald Trump. You wanted a special master. You filed a civil lawsuit to compel certain conduct, so of course the judge is going to ask you questions. As Judge Dearie said from the outset, you can't have your cake and eat it too. So Donald Trump does not want to submit under oath verifications, and that's one of the things that he told the judge. Number two, Donald Trump thinks that the categories that the judge wants to classify things in is inconsistent with Judge Eileen Cannon's order. And finally, Donald Trump's lawyers do not want to file any motions at the end of the process about whether or not the original magistrate judge, Judge Reinhardt, remember him who issued the warrant, whether his court should ultimately decide any return of property issues. And Donald Trump's like, I want Judge Eileen Cannon to do that. And Judge Eileen Cannon didn't even contemplate, when she asserted her extraordinary equitable jurisdiction over this, that you as the special master or Judge Reinhardt would have any role. Trump just wants basically go back to his corrupt judge, Eileen Cannon, and have her make all of the decisions. And so, in short, you have Donald Trump criticizing his own special master, the one that he chose, the process that he wanted, objecting, delaying. Some of this letter stuff is, again, just word salad as I read it. But basically, Donald Trump does not want to provide a verification because he doesn't want to submit an under oath statement to a court that would actually make him guilty of perjury or that would admit to the crime. That's the bind that he has put himself in. And he wants to delay this process to some indefinite time in the future and just drag it out. But Judge Dearie's not going to let any of this happen. So we'll follow and see what Judge Dearie responds. But this letter brief is insane. It's not going to be taken seriously by Judge Dearie. And when you read this as a legal observer, you can see the difference between the Department of Justice's letter I talked about yesterday, clear, concise, point by point, and this rambling mess that Donald Trump did. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Until next time, hey, hit the subscribe button right now. And if you want to support the MeidasTouch Network and grow this independent media network, go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.